Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Florida, on our Labor Day holiday. Okay, and Labor Day means work, or if you will, or rest, or whatever it means, but it means transition. And basically it means transition from a seasonal variation, now we're going into fall, although it's still warm outside. Okay? And the idea that I shared in the article this week was sovereignty. And that we are sovereign human beings. And sovereign means basically supreme power or authority over self. So when I say sovereign human being, that means you have the God-given ability to run your life the way you want to run it. Now, that creates some problems, so we need to talk about that. However, what I've been dealing with is, and I've been part of my conversation is, you're a child of God. And as a child of God, you have inherited everything God is, and you have the ability and even the charge to conduct your life as God would want to conduct it, or conduct it as God would, which means everything works in your life. So who has the authority over your life? As a child of God, who does? By definition, you do. Is everybody here? Now, that issue is a big issue politically, spiritually, in a lot of religions, so it could be controversial. Everybody there? And we're going to talk about it openly. Yes? This is yes, this is no. Okay, so these are very interesting things to talk about. Now, to start off, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him, male and female, he created them. Anybody have any comment about that? Because that's what it says.
It said male and female?
Yep. Now, I have stayed away from that because of the controversy within our culture right now. Okay, but that's what it says. Okay?
So that means God was both male and female?
Would you repeat that?
God was both male and female?
Yeah, it could be. See, God is, period. So there is no, and sometimes in the original Aramaic, and when I did go into translations this last week, and there is no gender preferences in the original Aramaic in the Bible. Okay? So it says, and God. So it is not delineated as you bring up. See, those are the kind of things we need to look at. So there's no definition male and female. Male and female was something that was added. And remember what happened was back in 1400s, 1500s, the Bible was translated from Latin into English by a group of people from England. And what they did was, a lot of people don't know this, but they separated the Bible into all different groups. And there was committees. Anybody familiar with committees and how they work? And the committees got together and they were given these 2 chapters, and they were given these 4 chapters, and they were all different committees, and they translated, in their opinion, into English and used those words, and that's where the English Bible we're using today came from. The original King James. Everybody there? So, now, here's what happened. Jesus spoke Aramaic, and Aramaic is a very romantic, very, very passionate language with a lot of idioms in it. And the idioms then went into Greek. Jesus did not speak Greek. Jesus spoke Aramaic. So everything went into Greek, and then Greek into Latin, and then Latin into English. Anybody see a breakdown? So, believe it or not, and we could say divine authority, but we still have the human being to deal with, which is where this whole issue comes from, is man's interpretation of who's in charge. Everybody there?
Wow.
Even the definition of what is male and female. Okay, so all these things are subject to man's interpretation. So everybody take a deep breath. So it says, so if you stop and think about it, the question is, who has the authority over you as a God being? If we define God as the ultimate supreme power, there isn't anything other than who you are as a human being. That would be, for me, a logical determination if I'm looking at it logically. Now, somebody from my mother's thought might look at it differently, but who's in charge of your life?
We
Okay?
are. We are.
Yeah. Now, if you really look at it though, we have to learn to live within the physical world. Now, where did the Ten Commandments come from? See, if you look at the Ten Commandments pretty much are man-made things. Now, they came down from the Old Testament, but thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not. Those are all things to keep us running in the cultures we're in. They were the tribal law of Israelites, okay? And this is how you get along together. So we have subjugated or subordinated our rights as a human being, as a child of God, to the cultural in order to get along. Anybody agree? It would be a whole mess if we all decided to drive anywhere we want to. And we have the right to drive a car. And who gives us the right to drive a car?
Try driving in India.
So, and try to drive in, I'll never forget when I was in Australia. They drive on the left-hand side of the lane in Australia, okay? And I rented a car, and I'm driving left-hand lane, and a great big truck, 18-wheeler, come this way, and she went under. I'm sorry.
Scary.
She was terrified, okay? So who says that's the way it should be? So to get along, we all have to agree where we are that we're going to subordinate our rights as a human being in order to make it work in the physical world. Everybody got it? So that delineates. You see a difference? We've got a huge difference between the physical world and the spiritual world. Okay, so what are the physical laws? The physical laws basically are the Ten Commandments. If you look at that, and it's put in place in the old Bible, if I can use the terminology, for the tribes to get along. It was tribal law. And anybody agree the tribal laws have, let's just say they have gotten bigger. Because we have to have laws to drive cars in. We have to have laws to do things. We have to have laws for money. Anybody familiar with laws for money? We have to be able to tax outcome because we give them the right to do that. So there's all these conversations of what is divine sovereignty and what is physical sovereignty. Everybody there? But ultimately, who has the power over you as a child of God? Okay. And we have given up certain rights. Now, if you stop and think about it, is the right to drive a car a spiritual or a physical right? See, the cars came along as an adjunct. I believe it's part of the physical law. Okay? So we have to delineate that, and then we have to have people in authority, you ready? To adjudicate those things, to make decisions about what is here and what is there. So it's gotten so cloudy over the years. Who's in charge? And when it comes to a political situation, who's running things? Who makes the decisions? Now, I suggest somebody get copies of our Constitution and our
Bill of Rights.
Or what?
Bill of Rights.
Declaration of Independence, okay? And it says very clearly that we have the divine right for what? Anybody tell me?
Life, liberty, and pursuit.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Life, which means I have the right to live, okay? I have the right to take care of myself. Liberty means I have the ability to be free. And the pursuit, it doesn't say happiness, it says the pursuit of happiness. The founding fathers put together a beautiful document that was there to balance all of these physical issues. Okay? Okay? Now, if we go on here, to be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Okay? So now we put into the law of attraction into this conversation. So, we have a divine right to be sovereign. We also have a divine right to live in love. Now we're going to separate between the physical laws and the spiritual laws. The physical laws are the laws man-made, and what's called the tribal laws that came down to us from the Ten Commandments. And we even have 10 commandments posted to people, et cetera, et cetera. But all of these laws that we're dealing with are laws that have extended from the 10 commandments. In other words, these are all the laws to help us get along as in our culture and live a productive life. Okay, it doesn't say who should run things. Okay, that has just been from people assuming power. But where is the power? Within you. Okay? So it says, one sows. And over here it says, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So there it becomes the spiritual law. So where is the sovereignty? Okay? And who has the final say on what happens in my life, your life? Really stop and think about it. That's a big issue. And for me, I've never really looked at it. In the last couple of weeks, I'm really looking at it. Who's in charge? Who tells me how to put my pants on or whatever, okay? And ultimately, I have to get along in society because I can't hurt you. See, one of the things is in spiritual law is to love. So we go in here, it says, for as he thinks in his heart, and then the last commandment, which came from Jesus, who brought in the spiritual law, and he says, thou shalt love the Lord thy God and thy neighbor as thyself. So the ultimate final commandment is use love. Yes? So it's up to me, as a sovereign human being, to use love to make my world work, which supersedes the physical laws. Okay? Now, does it? And do I believe that? And do I work out of that? So, do you see the country we're dealing with right now? Look at the laws and how many discussions are there now between the polarizing in our society? Okay, and which one of those is a sovereign right as a child of God? And stop and think about where we are. We are in the middle of this conversation all the time. Okay, and where do I come out? Basically, I'm talking about how we make decisions upon where we're going to go, okay? And how we're going to support it, whether we're going to go to church and all this stuff, okay? So it's all here, but basically you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. Now, an interesting thing, and this is something I've been working on because I'm getting new information, and that new information is coming from a book I've been using. So here it is. And I'll be honest with you, this is a little bit, see this, resurrection consciousness. Okay, understand, that means resurrecting into our spiritual self in consciousness. Now, what did Jesus do? He came in to share the spiritual life with us. And to prove what he had to say, he actually resurrected the physical body into a spiritual body. And evidently the story comes out. And he's saying, these things I do, ye shall do even greater things. I don't know.
They said recently the Shroud of Turin was from 2,000 years ago.
Say it again.
The Shroud of Turin was from 2,000 years ago.
So he is considered a model. So what is our job? Do you see right now, anybody agree? It's hopeless. It really is. I'm going to get real controversial. I'm going to talk about abortion. Okay? Is taking a life, murder, part of the physical law? Yeah. In other words, you don't do it. There are people that consider abortion murder. However, does the individual have the right? Are they sovereign within themselves? Do you see that it's crazy, it really is. So how do you deal with that? The only way to do it is go into love, okay? Now, I use that, and Matt was probably surprised at my conversation, but I've really been thinking about this dichotomy that's going on and what is spiritual. And it's kind of like I'm entering a new environment. I guess we're going to have to start some new ideas. But anyway, you shall love the Lord God with all your heart, all your soul, and with all your mind, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. By the way, there are 3 commandments there. Love the Lord thy God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. Anybody agree the most difficult one is love yourself? So those are the issues we're dealing with here. And when we get together, what are we doing? Okay, and what are we honoring? And when I live my daily life, what am I doing? And I wasn't going to go here, but this is really fascinating. This is a whole book. And I'm debating whether I should read some of it to you, so guess what?
Maybe you shouldn't.
She's been with me. She's been dealing with this conversation. I'm going to pick something. This is something I found rather poignant. And this is a metaphor about a garden. And it says, the body is an expression of the mind, or the garden where it deposits the flowers and herbs of the soul's experience. See, everything I experience, everything I think, everything I speak, shows up in my body. And it's like a garden, okay? So, am I doing the sovereign? I am being sovereign in what I say and what I speak. So what I say and what I speak determines what happens in my life. So we go right back to thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So there really isn't any answer other than love. And love transmits everything into divinity, if you will. Okay? It goes on. We make this clarification so that the thinking mind does not get lost in definition and to be able to continue our heart-to-heart dialogue, walking together in a clear path under a clear sky full of light and peace. So we are connected at the heart level, and when we're connected at the heart level, these problems are not problems, they're solved. Okay? So it's our job to be connected at the heart level. And part of that is being compassionate, part of that is being appreciative, part of that is being grateful, part of that is being thankful, part of that is being open to other people doing their thing, because everybody is sovereign doing what they have to do in their life. And one of the keys is, anybody agree to get criticized when you do something different? Because it's different. It's funny. Chris and I were talking, Val and I were talking about traveling. And when you go to a different country, it's different. When you go to Europe, they're all old buildings, and you're in a town who's 800 or 900, 600 years old. However, you come into the United States and you go to a local town, how old is it? Maybe 50, 60 years old. Okay? So there's a difference in perception and what I think is the highest and best. And how do I resolve that difference? Is right there. Love thy neighbor as thyself, appreciating and making that heart-to-heart connection. What I'm asking to do is to ponder this idea. And not just accept things, but really ponder and know who you are. Because the first step here is number one. You are created in the image and the likeness of God. God is who you are. This book says you're here to do that. Okay? And the Bible says you're here to do that. Which means you are divinity in action. So we have, stop and think about this, when I have rights. So now I have rights as a child of God. Anytime I have a right, I have a responsibility to carry it out. And I've been looking at my own life. Okay, what have I done to promulgate the ideas? Have I been open enough? Have I been clear enough? Have I held back because I don't want to offend people? Anybody familiar with that one? So all these issues that I'm dealing with in my life by looking at, I am a child of God. And as a child of God, I have a responsibility to share that. Now, I do not have the responsibility to force it on anybody. Everybody got that? Because you cannot change somebody's life. They have to do it themselves. All we can do is put the idea out, and the only way is to model the behavior of the Christ, if I can use that terminology, which is right back here. Okay. I will read this. Love has the power to make all things new. Anybody stop and think about it? Are we going to a higher level in society? So are things becoming new? Yes. All kinds of crazy things are happening, okay? I've never even heard of electric cars before. Anybody else? Now, do I like them? I'm not sure yet. I have the divine right to choose, okay? But stop and think about it. We are being pushed to understand things are changing and how do we adapt to it, okay? I'm stopping there, okay?
You know,
we could talk about, this is unfair. This is a whole day conversation.
you know, it's easy when we're talking that I have sovereignty, but how I want to control others because I want you to believe the same thing that I believe.
Yes.
It's just really like a crazy world in there.
And all I can do is be a model. As long as my life is working, okay, now, is my life working? Which is a pondering. Stop and think about that. Is my life working? And the only way I can tell that is look at my life. How's it going?
If you want someone else to believe what you do, that's really talking about your own self-worth. Do you really love yourself?
Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting when you think about laws and rules and regulation as frameworks.
Yes.
You know, these are the frameworks in which society can productively move forward. But then, like a painting, you know, each of us has our own unique vibrational energy, and we
Yeah.
have our own challenges, we have our own circumstances. And so I think, you know, one of the things that I love about Unity is that it's like, okay, well, here's this framework, you know, here's kind of what we believe. But Charles always said, this until I get more information, or,
Yes.
or this until I understand something more deeply. And so it's not like a hard and fast, you have to, you have to believe this. It's like, okay, use this, see how it works in your life, because we're all so incredibly unique. And when you've got your foundational things, that helps you to build your house. But it is your vision, it is your talent, it is your gifts, it is your vibration, and what you do with that.
Yeah, that's the idea of subject to further enlightenment. There is an idea in the framework, though. There's a conversation about the common good. Who decides what the common good is? And it's a common good part of you. Okay? So there are influences in our culture that are taking us to herd thinking rather than individual thinking. Okay, now that's another conversation. However, if I'm really a sovereign human being, I can make those decisions rather than be part of that conversation. In other words, I live in a house. Why do I live in a house that's rectangular or square in shape? We lived in a house that was a dome for a while, okay?
It's easier to build.
Easier to build, yeah. Okay? Why do I drive a car the way it is? Why doesn't it have 3 wheels instead of 4 wheels? Okay, better on tires for 3. So why do we do what we do? Because that's tradition. So again, delineating between what is the group think and what is personal think is part of sovereignty, okay? Anybody else? Thank you for bringing that up.
But it's interesting when you think about competing needs, you know, because sometimes somebody else's need is exactly as important as yours. So what do you do with it? I think that when you stand in love,
Yes.
and you're like, okay, well, this is what I need. This is what works for you. I'm gonna honor you. I'm gonna let you do what you need to do, but I'm also gonna set boundaries and protect what I need. But when you do it out of love, it can become a dance, and you both come out winning. You both come out successful, but you haven't tried to change each other. You've just been real intuitive and in alignment with where you are.
The word intuitive is important. But again, I want to go back to the word needs. In a love society, do we have needs? In other words, lack is a part of the false beliefs of the human being. So, do I buy into your need for lack? Okay, so in other words, one person's need is somebody else's, whatever. And so it's a very interesting thing we're dealing with. And when I look at somebody and see them in need, am I actually creating them more in need? So these are the questions we have to deal with. So what I'm trying to do is create this thought in this group. Now,
But we think they're in need, but do they think they're in need?
well, that's what they're portraying. In other words, are they trying to get, in other words, am I getting caught in their web of beliefs?
So you think you need a house, but they don't.
Yeah. And why do I need a 3,000 square foot house and somebody else wants a 4,000 and somebody else, okay, we lived in 600 square feet for a while when we first came to Austin. Anybody ever done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was comfortable, it really was.
It was cozy.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it's great.
We had a king size bed, we had everything. We were really good. We were uptown. Couldn't invite anybody over, but we did. Okay, so again, what are needs? And needs are defined by sovereignty. Okay? So the whole thing is all in, and so ultimately it is, if I really believe I'm a child of God, I create what I want. And what I need, what my needs are, not what and this, in other words, we have a group need which people are now trying to force on us. And I'll just let that fly a little bit, okay? Very good. You got a strange look on your face.
Oh, I'm just thinking about saying so what to all the world and just creating from your true self.
Now you get back to the divinity that we are and wanting other people to live in love.
Yeah, so all the stuff that people want and everything, you just ignore it.
Or then you're dealing with lack of compassion. Yeah. So see, that's the issues we're all dealing with. These are the real issues we're dealing with. And how do I, as a human being, work in that environment with all these pressures around me? Okay.
Let go. Let God.
We're seeing that. Did you understand what the chant he used? What was it? Anybody remember?
Let go and let God.
Yeah. Which is the anthem that we're looking at.
That is. I was reminded of something that happened to me back in 1970 from your talk today. And I was living in Louisiana, married, and I wanted very much to have children, and things weren't working out. And I wound up doing all kinds of fertility things
Yes.
to try to make that happen. Did get pregnant, had some problems with it, and at the week before the end of the third month, two different doctors said you need to stop this right now. This child is not okay. This child is, well, it's gonna be an abomination. You know, you do not need to go there. It's not fair to the child or you. And I was really like, oh, I don't, that, not only do I want the child, but I don't do things like that.
Yes.
And so I went, at that point, I was going to a Methodist church where we lived, and I really thought a lot of the minister as well as his associate, a woman. So I went to them and I said, look, I'm in a real jam here. I really need some counseling. And I said, these people are telling me, you know, I'm putting my own life in danger, and this child, who knows what will happen with him or her. But it doesn't jive with what I have in my own heart that comes from my God, and I don't know what to do. And the time was an issue. And they said, you can't have that child.
Wow.
That child is not right. It is not right to bring that. You need to have the abortion. And I'm going, oh, that wasn't what I thought I was going to hear, you know. And so I was devastated. I went home and pray without ceasing. Yeah, pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. The morning of the end of that 3rd month, which was my deadline, I miscarried.
Okay.
Because I told God, I cannot, in my right mind, in the love in my heart, straight from you, I cannot do that. Can't do it. If it needs to be, then I'm going to let you take care of it. And the prayer was answered. The sovereign self was enlightened
Yes.
by the light and love of God.
Yes. Do you thank you for sharing that? How do you feel right now?
Oh, that was 1970, but
I know, but that's
yeah,
a big,
it's
it's
still
a big issue you
it's a
share.
big issue. Yeah.
And that whole idea, unless you've been through it, you cannot. That's one of the things I said, unless you've been there, you don't know. Thank you for sharing that.
Perfect group of people to share
Yeah.
with.
Do you understand how brave she just did? Thank you. It's got- Is there anything else? Okay, so it is an issue, and it's an issue to think about, where am I? And I'm not saying it's anything other than what's in your heart. And your heart is in love, it's all in Him. And it's easy to say that until you're confronted with something. Okay? Nobody else? Okay, if anything else, my intention was to get you thinking and to really look at this whole thing and not just make a decision or say things out of memory, okay? What do I really believe, and what am I going to do, and how do I act in the world as a human being that has the sovereignty of my life? And you're a child of God, and as such, how do you live your life? And I'm challenging myself, to be honest with you. I really am. What do I have to do? And I have a lot more to do, whatever it is. Okay? So I appreciate you. I love your career, and you guys have a lot to do. I hope I've given you a challenge. Blessings.